Welcome to Open Scripture, where we seek to sharpen the way the church reads her foundational texts. My name is Nick Nail. I am a worship leader and a PhD student. With me is Dr. Tracy McKenzie, professor of Hebrew and Old Testament. And this is a live commentary. We're walking through Genesis, and we are trying to just digest what these books mean and what these verses mean, what these scriptures mean. And you're the expert, the scholar. I'm kind of the everyday church representative and student trying to ask the questions, get you to help us understand this stuff a little deeper. And I'll do my job of trying to break things down for everyone.
Great.
So,
And we want you all to send in questions, especially our Patreon supporters. We're taking a question from our Patreon supporters every time. If you're not aware of it, you go over to Patreon, look for Open Scripture, and find us there, and you can support us too and send in your questions. And there's a few other things for our Patreon supporters as well. But also like and subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to this.
Yeah. So as we do, before we'll jump into Genesis, we answer a question from one of our Patreon supporters. This question is from Tyler, and Tyler said, can you explain the concept of intertextuality and how that relates to these verses that we're talking about? And I want to preface, I don't know if you or I have actually used that term yet in any of these episodes, but I think Tyler might have a bit of a leg on some people with some of these discussions. So he's bringing it up because he knows that we believe in using this as a method of intertextuality. Yes. So can you explain what that means and how that helps you interpret the Bible?
Yes. Tyler is a former student, and my first dissertation used this notion, this word, this term of intertextuality, which at its base meaning is just these two texts that are related to one another. Now, it goes a little bit deeper than that, and to be honest, the guild, that would be biblical scholarship, has moved away from the idea of intertextuality because that relates to something else in literary studies now. And so what really the field of biblical studies has moved towards is allusion, or there's another term called interbiblical exegesis. So if we think of allusion, that is a little bit more descriptive of what we're talking about here. This would be when one text alludes to another text. Or again, we've talked about these hyperlinks. I think Tyler also used that terminology, and we've used that, of course, in our episodes here, a link between these two texts. Of course, a hyperlink, for everyone that uses a computer or phone knows that it's a link that you just click on, maybe on your phone, and it links you to another website or something like this. The concept is that when you read, let's say you read Genesis 5:28, 5:29, where the author says this one will be called Noah because he will bring us relief from the pain of our toil from the ground which the Lord cursed. So that is a hyperlink, or that is an allusion to, of course, Genesis 3, where in the judgment against the man, it said, cursed is the ground. And then also it said, from the pain of his hands, it will produce, thorns and thistles, basically. Yeah. So that's an example of a hyperlink. We also, or an allusion, or to use Tyler's terminology, inner textuality. Again, just this relationship of text. Another quick example, just to kind of summarize where we are in Genesis, we read Genesis 12, 1 through 3 in our last episode, and the suggestion or the hypothesis was that when the Lord told Abraham, in Genesis 12:2, for example, I will make you into a great nation, he was actually referring back to the table of nations, where every son of Noah divided or spread into his nations into his land, into his tongue, into his family.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also said something, I will bless you, and I will make your name great. And the word name is, of course, the same, spelled the same as the word Shem, and the adverb there. And so, again, you have this link, this intertextuality, or this allusion from Genesis 12:2, really back to both the Table of Nations and the Tower of Babel story, so that when God makes Abraham's name great, or makes him into a great nation, the idea is this is going to be more than just a nation from one family or one son of Noah.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is going to be a multi-nation or an international endeavor when this happens. So again, we would say this is one of the earlier notions where we can see that the idea, the future plan of God was that all of the nations of the earth would be blessed in the seed of Abraham. So from the get-go, this was about the nations, and Abraham is the solution, or rather the seed of Abraham. We'll come back to that in a moment. I want to kind of really beat that drum when we come to our episode today.
Yeah, so what it means for illusion or intertextuality is that we keep seeing these repeated themes or callbacks or hyperlinks,
Yep.
and you can seize these often in the English even.
Right.
And it just goes to show that these stories in the Bible, like these different books, they relate to one another.
That's right.
They call back to one another, and this is they're not individual siloed off stories.
That's right. That's
and
right.
This is a way when we think about intertextuality and how that works, it helps us understand. Oh yeah, there's a whole story happening.
That's
here.
right. That's right. And this is again partly how you can see intentionality, the intentionality of the author. So this is not merely or only like historiography, where we're just picking up these random pieces of data from different books to try to form some picture of Jesus or picture of God's plan. No, this is intentionality that we find here in these texts. And these elusive texts are just one more piece of evidence in this idea of intentionality. And it relates back to, I think, an earlier question we had from a Patreon supporter about how do we know these texts relate to one another?
Yeah.
And again, it's here is another place we can kind of see this.
That's great. Well, thank you, Tyler, for that question.
Yep.
So onward to Genesis chapter 12. So we were already introduced to Abram, and he was given a blessing to be a great nation. And we also know that Abram's wife, Sarah, is barren, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's right. Those are great kind of reminders of where we're at. So in some ways, we're going to be keeping our eyes today on the land or the land promise, right? And this is a very prominent, promise, if you will. That is the promised land, or the land that God promised to Abraham. This is a major question of what do we do with this land promise. I do want to say that this land promise is one of those ideas, like the Lion King, that is distributed throughout the entire book that we're studying, calling the Pentateuch: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. You remember the Lion King was distributed in these 3 poems, plus the very first word of the Hebrew Bible. The word land is very obviously in some ways, much more prominent, at least quantitatively. The land is a huge deal. The rest of Genesis, as well as, of course, Exodus, they're on their way to the land. Leviticus and Numbers, they're thinking about the land. Deuteronomy, they get more law. What do they do when they get into the land? And then, of course, finally in Joshua, they get there. Things don't go well. So I just want to make a quick connection, of course. So we really start in this episode, the focus is on the land and specifically Canaan. We do want to think about how this land is really what we could say is prequeled. You know what a prequel is? All right. So the prequel to the promised land is, of course, the Garden of Eden in Genesis 2, and really all of the heavens and the earth in Genesis 1. There's that connection there. Okay, so we'll draw that out more. But anyway, the point of today's episode really is the land of Canaan.
Okay. All right. So where should we start? Verse 3?
Why don't you go ahead and read Genesis 12, 1 through 3, and maybe even start into 4. And again, I'll just draw a quick point, and then we'll be on with the rest of the verses.
Okay. Chapter 12. The Lord said to Abram, "Go from your land, your relatives, and your father's house, to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse anyone who treats you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran.
All right, very good. So several things we could really see there. I think what I really want to focus on, I'm not going to go back. I'm tempted to go back and hammer again 12, 1 through 3, because it's so important. But really the only thing I'm going to say there is I want to draw again that the point of Abraham is not Abraham himself, right? The point of what we could say Genesis is not Abraham, or the point of Genesis is not Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The point is that Abraham, or really Abraham's seed, would the solution for all of the families of the earth is going to be found in the seed of Abraham. So we could say that the point is all of the families of the earth. Just read your 12:3. What version are you using today?
This is CSB.
CSB, okay.
Says
What's it
all
say
the
there?
peoples on earth
All
will be
the
blessed through you.
peoples on earth will be blessed through you. So we can see right there, the point is all the peoples on earth.
Yeah.
And remember, all the peoples on earth was a quote from Genesis 10, the Table of Nations, which represents everybody who came out of Noah and his wife, of course, the only people who were left alive.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, we think, oh, the Pentateuch's about Israel. And on the one hand, it's like, okay, Israel does come into existence there, and there is obviously going to be a certain prominence because the covenants come to and through Israel. The oracles, right? The oracles of God, the scripture comes to Israel. And obviously, the solution to the sin of Cain, or of Adam and Eve and Cain, are all going to be solved in the seed of Abraham. So, but I just want to make the point that in reality, the point is not Abraham.
Yeah.
The point is, again, the seed of Abraham and how he is a solution for all the peoples of the earth. Now, okay, I'll resist saying anything else and just say, hey, go back and listen to the previous episode if you want more information.
I will say
there.
one other thing.
Okay,
I
actually found one other thing I want to say something.
Going back to the whole Shem there, a name, paradigm.
Yep.
It's just amazing. And I think, we briefly hit on this. It's like the people of Babel, they were trying to make a name for themselves.
That's right.
And now
with this great thing.
Yeah. And now we have this introduction to Abram, and God says, "Now I will make your name great. I'm going to do this for you."
Yep.
And it's
So
so sweet.
good.
Yeah.
So good. That's right. And of course, we know that God has made a name for Abraham, and that name is the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
High and exalted, Lord of Lords, King of Kings. So, okay, I'll resist saying anything else about 1 through 3 because I'm going to say something about it when we have a little intertext, a little allusion here in a minute. But we can say in verse 4 that we see Lot and Abraham. So again, of course, Lot was first mentioned at the end of chapter 11. So we see that. We see how old that Abraham was. And we see that he went out according to what the Lord said and how old he is. So now he's leaving Haran. All right, I think we're ready for verse 5.
All right. He took his wife, Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan.
Okay. Now, That's an interesting version.
It stops at a comma.
Well, it should stop. That really is. It's really odd. That's the end of the verse. Actually, that should be the end of verse 5. And in the Hebrew, there's a mark here that is a sentence.
Okay.
So you can look up the ESV here, because this really should be and they came to the land of Canaan. That's how verse 5 should end.
Nope. ESV does the same thing.
Okay.
They put a period. They set out to the land of Canaan, period, and then starts with a when.
Okay.
When they came to the land of Canaan. Comma.
Okay. So,
Interesting.
let me just read it from the Hebrew. Okay. I'll just read that part. And they went out to go to the land of Canaan, really to the land, Canaan, and they came to the land, Canaan.
Huh.
All right. So again, what I think the author's doing here is focusing on the fact that they were on the way to Canaan.
Right.
And of course, what do we know about Canaan? We know that Canaan is cursed.
Yeah.
Right. Now, in a sense, I don't know that cursed means that everything, that Canaan itself, maybe we might think everything that in Canaan is cursed or something like this. I think in some ways, what we found out in Genesis 12:3 is that those who bless you, I will bless, and the one who treats you with contempt, I will curse. Mm-hmm. So, in a sense, we just know that things in Canaan, in a sense, are against God, and God, in a sense, is against them.
Right.
So now they're coming. Here comes Abraham and Lot to the land of Canaan, and we'll have to see what's going to happen. Now, of course, really, the author is doing all of this really as kind of a foreshadowing, because, of course, the land of Canaan is the land we're going to read about here in a minute that the Lord is going to give to Abraham. And, of course, Abraham's going to buy a burial plot here in the land so that he has a right to it. And also, of course, it's the people of Canaan that are going to end up being enemies of God and, in a sense, wicked. And so, again, God is going to judge them. So all of this is working together. And here we're just kind of seeing the very beginning of all of that, which is why in the Hebrew there is an emphasis on Canaan.
Right.
I think the English versions, I would tell you to go find another English version. I'm just absolutely certain there's some that say, use a full sentence there. But sometimes the English versions, this is a good example, English versions, they kind of want to smooth things out.
Yeah.
So there's no repetition. And the Hebrew here is just repeating things so that we get the point, that the point here is Canaan. Okay? What are we at? Verse 6.
Abram passed through the land to the site of Shechem at the oak of Moreh. At the time, the Canaanites were in the land.
All right. So again here, we've had 3 mentions of Canaan in 2 verses, right? We didn't have it in verse 4, but we had 2 in verse 5, and now we have another one in verse 6. The Canaanite was then in the land. All right, so Abraham, here he comes. He's crossing into this land. He comes to the place of Shechem, and he winds up at the place of Moreh. Now, what you can't see is that Moreh is made up from the Hebrew word ra'ah, which means to see. And in Hebrew, if you cause someone to see, you show him. All right? Which is exactly the word that I was going to mention a little bit ago in verse 1.
I will show you.
He came to the land which I will cause you to see. And Moreh would be like the place of seeing.
Yeah.
Right? So Abraham came to the place of seeing. He came to the place where God says, I'm going to cause you to see this. And in a minute, which we will get to here in just a minute, the Lord is going to be seen in this place. It's all related to this word ra'ah,
Yeah.
which morah is related to this word.
Hmm.
Okay? So this is basically where the place that the Lord is causing him to see. He winds up at more. This is going to come up in future episodes. This is going to be in Genesis 22 and another episode, I think chapter 14. We're going to continue to see this kind of wordplay with ra'ah.
And some of my preaching classes in seminary, you were a little discouraged from going too deep into some of the Hebrew and Greek, and you would lose people getting too heady or academic. But I mean, theologically, that is very helpful to know what that word actually means.
Yeah.
That's very helpful to this story. So I think maybe we need to find ways to help guys use languages without being too over the top with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times, I can see how sometimes in sermons, maybe somebody mentions a Greek word or a Hebrew word, and I don't know, maybe it's showy or something. But I think, again, we certainly are not trying to do that.
Yeah.
We're doing this to kind of, again, reveal intentionality in these things. So for me, it's like, just because people use it wrongly, the languages wrongly, doesn't mean you shouldn't use the languages.
Yeah.
It just means you should use them rightly.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to use them rightly here. And again, like we say at the beginning of every show, our point here is to sharpen the way we read these foundational texts. And so the biblical languages, are really important for that. So. All right, so this is verse 7, and you can guess where we're going to go right off the bat here.
The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land."
Okay, so the Lord appeared. All right, so the Lord was seen. So he first in 1 says, I'm going to go to the land which I will cause you to see.
Yeah.
Then he comes to the place of seeing, Moreh, and now he is seen by by the Lord. By Abraham. The Lord is seen by Abraham. And what's the point?
I'll give you this
to
land.
your seed I will give this land. So here it is. This is the initial promise. Now, I don't want to take too much time because we're going to be dancing around this subject, depending on to what detail we go into in these chapters, we're going to be talking about this. We could talk about this the entire way through Genesis, but we're going to have to eventually tackle what is this precise land promise that God is giving to Abraham, and is it the physical dirt that the modern nation state Israel has right now? Is that what these biblical texts really mean? And, a lot of people think that.
Yeah.
Again, not to bring names in needlessly, but, Ted Cruz was famous a month or two ago for saying this.
Using one of these verses.
I think Kurt Cameron, got called out in a major way because he said it wasn't, right? So these are just a few examples of some of the fights, if you will, or arguments going on over here about this. So we'll want to discuss why or why not the author intends or does not intend for this promise really to relate to the physical dirt that our ally, the modern nation state Israel, occupies right now.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because we didn't set out to be a current event commentating podcast.
No.
But we can read these and then we can see how that relates to our world today.
That's right.
And that's all we're doing is just observing and commenting.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. This is part of a larger discussion. This just shows you how this is important for today, one way or the other. Because if it doesn't mean the modern nation state Israel, of course, it's for all of those who are in the Messiah, that is in the Lion King, in Jesus, which we would say is, of course, the church.
Yeah.
Right. So again, very important here for us.
Right.
And I often ask my classes, should we move to Israel, as Christians? And of course the answer, I don't think that, but that would be one of the applications if we took this hyper literally. All right, so that really, Abraham crossed in the land of the place of Shechem. Okay, that's verse 6. The Lord appeared to Abram, and he said, to your seed I will give this land. Now, we also need to ask the question, what is the word seed? Now, seed is what is known as a collective noun. It'd be like, the word hair. Like I go cut my hair. Well, it doesn't mean I just cut one of my hairs.
Right.
I cut all of my hairs, but I don't say I cut my hairs, right? So hair is another collective noun, like the animal deer, right, is a collective noun.
Yeah.
So seed is also in English a collective noun. We don't really say I planted seeds. Sometimes we do, but you could also say I planted seed. I planted grass seed, right? So it'd be a collective noun.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, this could mean all of Abraham's physical descendants.
Right.
All right. So again, you can see how this would be taken to mean that everybody who is physically descended from Abraham has a right to this land. That would be the land, the physical dirt in modern nation state Israel, because, again, a certain portion of them, if not all of them, are physical descendants of Abram.
Yeah.
All right. So again, I can understand why this is taken that way. But now we have to ask the question, what is the author doing with this word seed? And does this mean everybody that is descended from Abraham? Or is there a particular son of Abraham or a particular branch of Abraham's lineage that really receives this promise?
Maybe you're going to answer this, but is there any kind of denotation that says seed as a singular seed, or is it always this collective form?
Unless it's explained in the context, it's always this singular form. So in other words, the plural is not used.
Okay.
All right. Now, there could be a few places where the plural is used, but the plural, this is a collective noun. In other words, it's always a singular.
But there's never a singular that's not collective.
Well, again, in the context, I think there could be a singular seed, which does not mean all the people. But in these contexts, it really is ambiguous.
Okay.
So, one of the things we said in the Lion King episodes were that this particular son of Judah is really the seed of Abraham,
right?
Who to whom the obedience of the nations would be his. All right. So again, we think that a particular seed is meant in some of those passages which Abraham has promised. But we will also say that, again, this word seed can be a collective. So my point here would be Abraham has a son named Ishmael.
Yeah.
And he is not included in this promise according to these upcoming chapters because he was not the son of promise, that is the son, basically the miraculous son.
Yeah.
Okay. Isaac's going to be the miraculous son, again, which this is the way the author is going to play and create the drama from barren Sarah, who has no children, right? And who's also going to be beyond her childbearing age. Yeah. So it's like a double miracle, right? God is the one who births Isaac. That's the son of promise that is the one who's going to receive this land, not Abraham's physical son, right. Ishmael, who was born somewhat illegitimately. Yeah. And we'll come to those episodes eventually.
Okay.
Okay. All right. There's the word seed. And just one other thing here. I'm going to let you finish verse 7. I cut you off halfway through.
So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him.
All right. So two things here. This is so fascinating. I mean, this is so clear from the author. First of all, he uses the word there. Yeah. Right. And remember, we're still in that same literary unit that capitalized on there, even though we cut the episode off at verse 3. In the last episode, we cut it off at verse 3. This is the same literary unit that we've been hammering that. And so now Abraham builds an altar there. And who did he build it to? To the one who was seen. by him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in other words, we have the word see
Yeah.
again, and so you can kind of see the author's just throwing down some serious breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
So we don't miss this.
Right.
And unfortunately, all these are kind of different words in English, but all represented by the same word in Hebrew.
That's crazy. Yeah.
All right,
Verse 8. From there, he moved on to the hill country east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. He built an altar to the Lord there. He called on the name of the Lord.
All right. So again, you can kind of just hear the repetition.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have? 3 theirs in that verse,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or at least 2 from theirs in that verse, from there and then there, right? We see again that he built an altar. The author repeats, he built an altar. An altar is a very, very positive thing to do because you're in the Lord's presence. You're calling on the Lord's presence.
Yeah.
And again, to be in the Lord's presence is where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a return to Eden. You remember when Noah left the ark? What did he do?
He built
an altar.
Yeah.
He offered a sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was a pleasing aroma. And the Lord then covenanted with Abraham and all creation not to destroy the earth again.
Yeah.
So here's Abraham, Noah's great grandson, and he's building an altar. And what's he doing? He's calling on the name of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
This has only been used twice in the Bible so far. Seth, the son of Seth, Enosh. Remember? Then it was begun that people began to call on the name of the Lord. So Abraham is in the line of Seth. He's in this blessed line of Seth, not in the line of Canaan. Of Cain.
Yeah.
But he's in the line of Seth. He's calling on the name of the Lord, building altars there in this place that the Lord had appeared to him. So we find out that Abraham is worshiping the Lord, building altars. He's in the Lord's presence, and I'm sure the Lord is pleased.
So verse 9, to cap it off, then Abram journeyed by stages to the Negev.
All right, very good. So here we're at the end of this literary unit. Verse 10 actually starts really what we could say is chapter 13, but again, it's the next literary unit. We'll come to that in the next episode. But here we just see that Abraham is now journeying in this land. So God said, this is the land I'm going to give to you. And the Negev is in the south, right? Ai and Bethel are farther north. They're not all the way to the Sea of Galilee, but Bethel's down, the Negev is down this entire southern part below the Dead Sea, what is now the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
And Ai and Bethel means house of God, by the way, and it's up here in the north. So I remember, I think last time you asked a little bit about maps.
Yeah, right? What do we do with these maps?
And so,
here?
this would be one of those times where it's like, well, I guess you could look at the map, but the point here is that the Lord was giving Abraham this entire land.
Yeah.
And it's the land portrayed right here. Now, we still have to ask the question, okay, what is the author going to do to this land? And is he going to somehow expand it? How are we going to work with this land promise? And that will be a question that, like I said, we continue to answer, but we'll wait till we get to some more specific texts to answer it and take it back to Genesis 1 to 11. Well, join us next time as we continue to learn how the scriptures are for us and about us.